ಸುಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣ್ಯಂ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೊಂದು ಬಹುಚರ್ಚಿತ ಹೆಸರು. ತಮಿಳುನಾಡಿನ ಮೈಲಾಪುರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಇವರು ದೇಶ ಕಂಡ ಒಬ್ಬ ಅದ್ಭುತ ಅರ್ಥಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಜ್ಞ ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜಕೀಯ ಮುತ್ಸದ್ದಿ. ಹಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಿಂದ ಡಾಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಪದವಿಯನ್ನ ಪಡೆದ ಇವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಬದುಕಿನ ದೀರ್ಘ ಸಮಯವನ್ನ ಹಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾಧ್ಯಾಪಕರಾಗಿ ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದರು. ದೇಶದ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಿತ ಐಐಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸಿದ ಇವರು ಜಯಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ್ ಅವರ ರಾಜಕೀಯ ಚಿಂತನೆಗಳಿಂದ ಪ್ರೇರಿತರಾಗಿ ಹೋರಾಟಕ್ಕೆ ಧುಮುಕಿದರು. ನಂತರ ಜಯಪ್ರಕಾಶ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ್ ಅವರ ಜನತಾ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರಾದ ಇವರು ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ತನಕವೂ ಈ ಪಕ್ಷದಿಂದ ಸ್ಪರ್ಧಿಸಿ ಲೋಕಸಭೆಗೆ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಕಳೆದ ಲೋಕಸಭಾ ಚುನಾವಣೆಗೆ ಪೂರ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ತನ್ನ ಜನತಾ ಪಕ್ಷವನ್ನ ಬಿಜೆಪಿಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ವಿಲೀನಗೊಳಿಸಿ ನರೇಂದ್ರ ಮೋದಿ ಅವರ ಬೆನ್ನಿಗೆ ನಿಂತರು. ಬಿಜೆಪಿಯಿಂದ ಸ್ಪರ್ಧಿಸಿ ಇದೀಗ ಲೋಕಸಭಾ ಸದಸ್ಯರಾಗಿ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸುಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣ್ಯಂ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯವರು ಒಬ್ಬ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಲೆಜೆಂಡ್. ಇವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಖರ ಮಾತುಗಾರಿಕೆ ಮತ್ತು ಕಾನೂನು ಹೋರಾಟಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ವಿಶ್ವಮಾನ್ಯರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಪಕ್ಷದ ಅವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದ 10 ಹಗರಣಗಳು ಇವರ ಕಠಿಣ ಪರಿಶ್ರಮದಿಂದಾಗಿ ಬಯಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಗಾಂಧಿ ಕುಟುಂಬದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ನಿರಂತರ ವಾಗ್ದಾಳಿಯನ್ನು ನಡೆಸುತ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿರುವ ಇವರು ತನ್ನ ನಿಗೂಢ ರಾಜಕೀಯ ನಿಲುವುಗಳಿಂದಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಚಿಹ್ನೆಯಂತೆ ಗೋಚರಿಸುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಅರ್ಥಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ, ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯತೆ ಮತ್ತು ಭಯೋತ್ಪಾದನೆಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇವರು ನೀಡುವ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಚರ್ಚೆಗೆ ಒಳಪಡುತ್ತವೆ. ಸುಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣ್ಯಂ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಮಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿನ ತಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿಮಾನಿಗಳೊಂದಿಗೆ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಹಂಚಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಲಾದ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣ್ಯಂ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಭಯೋತ್ಪಾದನೆ ಮತ್ತು ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೋರಾಟವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಎಂಬ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸವನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟರು.
And corruption itself is by topic. And I have to finish by 8 o'clock, I think. The terms terrorism and corruption have to be defined. First of all, let me say that there can be no terrorism without corruption in society, and there can be no corruption which does not lead to terrorism. Terrorists come with Indian passports. How is that possible? Terrorists play on the stock market of India. How is this possible? It's possible because the politicians created a derivative in the financial world called the participatory note. No other country in the world has participatory notes, but we have it. Time doesn't permit me to explain what it is and how it operates, but a full-fledged committee headed by Tarapura Wala, that committee had recommended that they should be abolished. But so far we have not succeeded. So far we have not succeeded with my own government, but give me a little more time. I will get it done before the term of this government is over. So what is terrorism? It is threatened or deployed violence on a society to overawe the civilian population and make the government to do or not to do something which is not in the public interest. For instance, terrorists hijacked Indian Airlines plane and took it to Kandahar. And there they did not ask for the jewels and the cash with the passengers. They only said, we'll start killing one by one unless you release 3 people in Indian jails. 3 of the most dreaded terrorists including people who founded terrorist organizations which have killed large numbers. The relatives of the passengers then came into the started demonstrating before the Prime Minister's house. And a whole climate was created that we should not sacrifice the 159 passengers. There were ways of rescuing those passengers, but there was a risk. But the society was not ready to take that risk because we had become overawed. And ultimately, the government of India released 3 of the most dreaded terrorists, including Muhammad Azhar, who founded the Jaish-e-Mohammed. 159 passengers were saved. But since then, these 3 organizations have killed 3,000 Indian citizens. So this is the way the terrorism operates. It operates to overawe the citizen, and then you start wanting to make accommodation with the terrorists. And the day you start accommodating terrorists, there's no end. See what's happening in Pakistan. There is an elected government there. But can they take even one decision? The Prime Minister of Pakistan was invited to the swearing-in ceremony of Mr. Narendra Modi and his cabinet. And he could not answer yes because he had to ask the military whether he can go, the intelligence wing called the ISI whether he could go, and finally the clerics or the mullahs as they're called, whether he can go. And that's why he gave his acceptance to come last of all. Today in Pakistan, by constantly accommodating terrorists, there is no civil society worth the name there. The government of Nawaz Sharif does not extend beyond the residence of Mr. Nawaz Sharif. Decisions are taken there by organizations which are sympathetic to the terrorists. The army is sympathetic, the ISI is sympathetic, and of course the mullahs run the show. So therefore, you have to understand that terrorism is actually violence, but the violence is to change your frame of mind, to make you ready to surrender or to capitulate. A lot of people tell me terrorism is because of poverty. What rubbish! Osama bin Laden was a billionaire. He was not a poor man. Most of the terrorists have bank accounts in several countries. Prabhakaran, who led the LTT, had $5 billion in several banks, because he was not only doing terrorist activity, he was also doing drug trafficking, gun running, corrupting society through giving drugs and cocaine and things like that, heroin, weakening society in the process and making money on that. Terrorists are today the most well-financed people. ISIS of Pakistan, of Iraq, I shouldn't even say Iraq, they are now caliphate, which means they are a government of all the Muslims in the world, whether the Muslims agree to be a citizen of that caliphate or not. But they are declared openly. All Muslims of the world are under me. That is what their caliph says. So therefore now they in Iraq caught hold of all the oil fields. Having caught hold of the oil fields, they are selling oil. Now they have made so much money that you cannot get prisoners back by even paying ransom. Recently they have issued a threat to the Saudi Arabian sheikhs that we are now coming after you. But what is not published in the newspapers is, we are coming after you unless you pay us $100 billion. With that money, they will corrupt whichever society they come across. By the way, the IS says one thing which you must know. India is an incomplete chapter of Islamic history. It's there in their writings. What does it mean to say incomplete chapter of Islamic history? And it was explained to me that Islam went and conquered Persia. Persia was occupied by the Zoroastrians, was rather the country of the Zoroastrians, whom we now call as Parsis in our country. And they conquered it, and then in 15 years they converted every citizen of Persia, which is now called Iran, as converted them as Muslims. Those who refused were killed. Some ran away to India, and they are prospering here. So 15 years Iran became 100% Muslim. Then they went to Babylon and Mesopotamia, which is today called Iraq. In 17 years they converted Iraq into a 100% Muslim country. They converted Egypt into another great civilization, the Pharaoh civilization. They converted them to 100% Muslim in 21 years. And yet they, after conquering vast parts of India, after 800 years, we are still 80% Hindu. That is what bothers them. And one of the reasons we are still 80% Hindu is Karnataka, the Vijayanagara Empire. Of course, Shivaji also, the Gujarati Prajapatis and the Andhra Chalukyas, they all kept fighting. India is a story of continuous fighting. Not only the Muslims were able to convert a country after conquering it within 15 to 25 years, the British the Christians who conquered Europe, they converted in 50 years. So we had 800 years rule of the Muslim or the Islam and 200 years rule of Christians through the British. And you are 80% Hindu. This is what they call the incomplete chapter of Islamic history. And now they are saying they want to complete it. We better get ready. Don't say we don't want war. You will be gifted with a war. The war will be imposed on you. The day IS comes to the border of Wagah, Indo-Pakistan border, the war with ISIS in India is inevitable. It may not look today from newspapers and so on, but it's a serious threat because ISIS is an organization which is not physically capturing people, but it is capturing them mentally too. People are being infected. You can see today people are saying in Kashmir that this state cannot have a Hindu chief minister because we are a Muslim majority state. Well, when Antule was chief minister of Maharashtra, that time they didn't object, saying it's a majority Hindu state. Or Ghaffur was the chief minister of Bihar, they did not object. But they are objecting today that Kashmir is a Muslim majority state, and therefore we won't allow a chief minister who is a Hindu. And I think we should take up the challenge, and after this election, have a Hindu chief minister in Kashmir. Why? Because Kashmir was originally 100% Hindu. Vaishno Devi is still there. The Durga temple set up by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara, is there in the Shankaracharya hill. All our holy Hindu traditions are in Kashmir. I tell the Kashmiris also that don't say this state belongs to you, it belongs to me, because my ancestor was Rishi Kashyapa and he is the one who created Kashmir in the first place. So this can be taken to a ridiculous extent. But when our country was ready to fight, nobody was able to succeed here. The Caliph Umar conquered most parts of Europe, right up to the borders of France. He had conquered Spain. Then he turned around and said, I am going to India. They had a different word for India. Khorasan. Khorasan is the name they had for India. Said, I'm going to Khorasan to conquer it. When he came to the borders of Rajasthan, two kingdoms